Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the podcast wherever you are in the world. I'm really excited about today's guest, Katie Krimitsos from Florida. And she is a meditation expert and she's a women's empowerment entrepreneur. We have a lot of audience, listeners, viewers who are female executives, entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, public speakers, authors. So I'm really happy to have Katie on the show and talk about the Women's Meditation Network and becoming a thought leader. Katie, welcome.
Chris, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. And briefly introduce yourself, chronicle your journey, and I'm excited to delve into the conversation.
Yeah, I don't know exactly where you want me to begin. I do meditations. I'm a podcaster. You and I obviously are fellow podcasters. And yeah, it's been an interesting ride getting here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know we have a, yeah, and I know we connected through Podfest, and I love podcasting as a medium. When clients come to talk to you, your client avatar, what is their biggest pain point, frustration? What are they trying to achieve to get them to come and work with you?
So the way that I work with women is directly through my guided meditations on my podcast. So I don't do any one-on-one teaching or guiding or coaching or anything like that. And so the women listening are coming because they are burnt out. They're stressed out. They can't sleep. They know they need more calm in their lives. They want to live meaningful lives. They want to live big lives. They want to live lives that are really pretty extraordinary and in a match for kind of what they had dreamed about. But they're caught up in the kind of the, I'll call it like the rat race of life, just keeping up with all the things, managing all the things. They're going to have a lot of mothers who listen as well. They're managing all of the things that are important to them. And so they're coming to our guided meditations because they have heard that it will get them more calm. They have heard meditation is good, or they have been meditating a while, but they find us because they're really connected with what words we're saying and how we're saying it. Sleep is a big pain point. So actually quite a few of we have 20 podcasts that are part of the Women's Meditation Network. Sleep meditation for women, sleep meditation for women, 3 hours. We have Sleep Story Show. We have a lot of podcasts dedicated to just sleep. That is a huge pain point. So really, women are coming because they want calm. They want less anxiety. They want less stress. They want better sleep. But ultimately, if we distill it down, once we get past all of that stuff, they really want to be more connected to their own voice, to their own selves. And that's why I bring meditation to the fold here, because I really want women to use it as a tool. And I believe in it as a tool for self-awareness and being able to use that as a portal to designing a life that we really love.
Interesting. And a lot of we'll talk about the motivation behind the Women's Meditation Network, because you have a shop, you have blogs, sponsors. And what I found is meditation is fantastic. It helps discover these areas and when they come to you, to this network, and they're trying to get away from the hustle bustle, talk about how the network helps with healing with people from past emotional trauma or just going through difficult situations, and talk about how the meditations help people with this area of their lives.
Yeah. Part of the reason that I have 20 podcasts is because I wanted to be able to organize them down in a way that was easy to grab. It was easy for women to grab these things. And so I would experiment. So my original podcast called Meditation for Women, I would experiment a lot with like different series, or I would have a lot of women talking about, I don't know, back to school stress, or I would have a lot of women coming to me about, I just can't sleep right now. So or I'm having a panic attack, or, hey, do you have any meditation or affirmations? Those are really helpful in the morning. So I would experiment with these series. And eventually when a series did really well, I would actually break it out on its own and create a absolutely brand new podcast. So they wouldn't have to go search through hundreds and hundreds, at this point, thousands and thousands of episodes in order to find what they wanted. So I say that because the idea is that any woman coming who can see our 20 podcasts can visually immediately see, oh, that's what I need right now. That's what I'm going through. That's what I want to feel on the other side. So we have a panic attack meditation podcast. We have a meditation for anxiety. We have sleep meditation for women. We have daily affirmations. We have morning meditation for women. So the podcasts themselves and the titles of these podcasts are that first line of like, what do I need right now? And then as each woman comes into each of those, she's able to really look through our library and say, oh, yes, that's one I need. So we have a healing meditation for women podcast that has like a lot of Reiki infused in there as well. So the idea really and how I feel like I'm able to give women what they need is to just provide an enormous amount of content, and which we do, and be able to organize it in a way that allows them to grab what they need in any particular moment or season of their life so that they can move through it and get out on that other side.
And I love that. And also you have, what I love is even for meditation for even enhanced performance, like top performance and for CEOs and before they go into a meeting. How about talk about this market for moms with kids and the benefits of meditation for kids and sleep and nature?
Yeah. So as you can see, so the last 5 podcasts that we launched are all dedicated to kids. So we have meditation for kids, sleep meditation for kids, sleep sounds for kids, like the water nature sounds for kids. And the intention behind these podcasts, really, it was because I use meditation to help put my girls to bed every single night for many years now. And we use meditation during the daytime as we need it. But I was writing these meditations for my girls. And one example in particular, I remember one of my oldest daughter was being bullied, like in kindergarten. And I just remember writing her this beautiful script and meditation about, you don't have to play with people who make you feel bad. You don't have to play with those who make you feel sad. And I would write this poem and I would wrap it in a meditation. We'd listen to it at night, and she could hear the words at that moment. She could really understand them. And for me as a mother, I could choose, hey, my daughter's experiencing this today. Let me choose a meditation that would help her. So in that regard, that's why I was like, okay, even though these are like, I as an adult am writing these, like I really am writing them for my girls. And I feel like other mothers would love to have these available for their kids as well. So that's where all the kids stuff is. And yes, I am just a huge advocate of using meditation for kids to help them fall asleep at night. And at the very least, get them introduced to the idea of meditation.
Yeah. And I really love what we'll talk about, because your network, you've got your episodes are downloaded average of 4 million times each month, and it's like a top 0.1%. So talk about how you chose how you came to create this network and why you chose podcasts versus YouTube or other mediums and platforms, and what's inspired the creation of the network.
Yeah. So I have been an entrepreneur since 2009. And by 2000, oh my goodness, by the end of 2013, I had discovered podcasting, and I got it really clearly. I saw it really clearly as a tool for a business can use a podcast to get its message out to the world, to be able to build and enhance their message and what they really want to do and who they want to help. So I just got that right away. So just a month or two, in February 2014, I started a podcast called Biz Women Rock. It was for women entrepreneurs, by a women entrepreneur. I interviewed really amazing women business owners about their journeys, about their knowledge base, about their expertise. And over time, I went into it very ignorant. Like I didn't know what the hell I was doing other than I love business and I'm going to talk to other awesome businesswomen. And I over time finagled and figured out how to make it a business. And back then I absolutely was a one-on-one business coach and strategist. I had masterminds, I had courses, I had memberships, I had live retreats. Like I had that business model over the course of the years that I had it. And I loved it. So I had firsthand experience of just how powerful podcasting was and is. And I loved it. Within that time, I had my first daughter. I figured out how the mompreneur equation at the time. And at the end of 2017, I had hit my first 6-figure year. And I was like, yes, things are clicking into place. This is amazing. And I started January 2018 with a very clear vision of like how to triple business and how to triple my reach and how to triple my impact. And Q1 passes, I'm on par, I'm ready to go. I'm like, all the things that I'm about to launch are like ready to go. And then in April of 2018, we found out we were pregnant with my second daughter. And in a heartbeat, I just heard my intuition say, you're done with this. And that was a really scary It was a scary message to hear, but I have listened. I have become very familiar with my intuition over all of these years of my life. And so I knew enough to say, hold on, I need to listen to that, even though it's scary. I'm loving what I'm doing. I don't understand, but there's something here that I need to listen to. So instead of just ignoring it and continuing to go on my big bad journey, I took a pause and I said, okay, I'm not going to launch anything brand new that I was going to launch. I had actually lost a deposit that I just put down for a live retreat that I was going to have, a big live conference. I was like, I'm just pausing. I'm going to maintain with my current clients. I'm going to maintain everything I have. And I just need some time to think. And so I would go on walks with my husband every single day. And every single day he would just listen to me. Like one day I'd be like, yes, I could do this. I'm going to do this. It's going to be amazing. And the next minute I'd be like, nope, I'm done. I'm going to be a full-time mom. I don't want to do this business thing anymore. So in that, about a couple weeks into that, I had just finished like my spiel of all the emotions that I had about it, trying to figure things out. And he turns to me and he says, what about that meditation idea? And what he was referring to was a couple months prior, when I was coming up with my big business plan to grow the business, I had an idea for a Meditation for Women podcast, but I didn't do anything with it because it didn't really fit in line with what I was doing. But it was a good idea. He knew it was a very good idea. And so I repeat back to him, like, what about it? And he's, what about it? So that was enough to be the seed that planted the idea for the Women's Meditation Network. And within an hour of brainstorming, I was like, oh my God, this is the next season of my work in the world. Like I got it. I was really clear on that. And this is the next thing and it's not going to make sense to anyone because no one knew me. No one knew that I meditated back then. It was not a part of my brand. I was like businesswoman, hardcore, right? And so I understood that it was going to look like a non sequitur to everyone, but none of that mattered. I just knew I can do this. And I knew right away it was a network. I knew it was more than one show because back in 2018, if you searched Apple Podcasts or Spotify for meditation and women, there was only one podcast that existed. And I was like, I cannot believe this space is wide open. I have something to say here. I have something to contribute. I'm going to be this. I'm going to own this space. I'm going to be everywhere when any woman who's looking for meditation is here. I'm going to be here. So I got busy and that's how it happened. I launched Meditation for Women shortly thereafter in July of 2018. And almost 7 years later, I now have 20 podcasts. They've just grown one by one.
Interesting. Yeah. And then so one thing that came to my mind is talk about, because what's interesting is 2018 and then COVID, the pandemic hit. And what are some of the setbacks that you learned in building the podcast and how did that help you move forward in building community and your audience and your message?
I did not have any setbacks during COVID. I had the opposite experience. Which I'm really just aware of and grateful for. So I'll give you a little bit of a timeline. So as I mentioned, in 2018, in the summer, I started Meditation for Women. By the end of that year, I had my baby. And so for about a year and a half, I like slowly grew that one podcast, slowly grew my one baby, and then slowly put to bed the Biz Women Rock podcast. I still had clients. I didn't go forth with launching everything. I just slowly was like, okay, I'm just going to take clients. So for about a year and a half, that's what I did. I maintained and managed both and all the things. When my daughter turned a year old, it was the end of 2019. The beginning of I had just said goodbye to the Biz Women Rock podcast. And I started January of 2020, like ready to go full on with Meditation for Women. And my husband runs Podfest, as you had mentioned, and we had heard news of the pandemic, or we had heard news of COVID, right? And so I was actually starting to write meditations for him that would help ease his anxiety about this whole coronavirus thing that we were talking about. So I would write meditations for him. He has the event. The day after it's done, country shuts down. And I intuitively knew, I was like, okay, I need to put these meditations I've been writing for him. I need to put those on there because I bet other people are feeling that way. And so just little by little, I started putting more and more meditations out there. Back then, I did one meditation a week. And so whenever I could, I was like, let me just put extra ones out that deal with some of the stuff I'm feeling, that what he's feeling, like what we're all feeling. And I just intuitively knew, like, when everything around me is telling me to slow down, to shut down, to stop, I actually need to go on hyper movement. I need to go on hyperdrive because people need this. And I was hearing that response, like, oh my God, that coronavirus anxiety meditation was exactly what I needed. Oh my gosh, like this, the heaviness of having kids at home all the time, no breaks, all that sort of stuff. It's so hard. So I went into like hyperspeed. And so I just created as many as I could when I could with 2 kids at home in quarantine. Thank God we had like our little COVID pod with my in-laws. And literally everything just took off from there. We hit our first, I still remember in March 2020, we hit our first 100,000 download month, which was unfathomable to me back then. And then a couple months later is when I launched my second podcast, Sleep Meditation for Women. 6 months after that, I launched Morning Meditation for Women. And it's literally been just, boom, how can I provide more of what people are needing during this time that feels so uncertain and it feels wonky? And even when the years since, there's still, the world can seem really like off kilter. And so I'm constantly thinking like, how can I provide more and more? And I feel like that has worked to my benefit in that the listeners have come because I have provided that. So I'm very grateful for that I have stepped up to the plate to say, okay, I'm feeling this too. You're feeling this. Let's share this. Let me give this to you in a way that it can be really helpful for you.
Yeah, that's very powerful. And how was it? And then now we have a new president and a lot of chaos and havoc and like tariff, a lot of this. And then a lot of people are scared of artificial intelligence. So how has your meditations changed or evolved with this new fear that everybody is having?
One thing I think I have had to come to conclude is that there's always our entire history of the planet. There's just always stuff like this. There's always going to be new things that feel like they're the worst thing that's ever happened, right? So there's a little bit of like rootedness that I come back to for myself. And therefore I try to communicate that in my meditations. And I'm doing my best. So now I have a team of writers and we're all writing for different shows. And so I'm doing my best to train them to say, hey, as you are experiencing X, Y, and Z as it relates to all this outside stuff, write about that. Like really write about that because there are others that are feeling that too. More specifically, like I actually had a meditation, 2 meditations that went live on Inauguration Day in January this year. And one was literally like, if you feel hopeful and excited. And the other one was if you feel hopeless and depressed. And it was just really interesting. And I didn't do that to pretend that I don't have preferences. It was literally because my job is, I'm not here to tell you any of my political preferences. My job here is to be able to meet you where you are and provide you with support through meditations that you need, no matter where you are on that. And at the end of the day, my biggest mission, my biggest message is that everything is inside of us. And so I think I have leaned, as the world feels a little crazier, I lean deeper and deeper, and my message gets louder and louder to say, that's all noise. Everything is here. Let's own your personal power. Let's get clear on who it is you are and what you want so that you know you have the freedom to design your life despite what all this other stuff says. And I'm not dismissing that it affects us, right? I'm absolutely not dismissing that. I think sometimes we can get so obsessed with all of this that we forget that, and it affects us. And I don't know if we really know how it affects us, like how deeply it affects us. My call is always, let me give you another option. Let me give you this space to truly come into self, to come into center so that you know how to walk through your day in a way that's intentional and in a way that really owns your life. So I think that's been my way of just standing there as powerfully as I can and helping other women, other listeners do that as well.
Very powerful. And to conclude, for the listener or viewer, they really resonate, especially if they're in a career or job, very high stress, and they know their intuition is telling them to stop. And sometimes when I get those, I'm like, oh no, I have to start over. I feel like I have to start over again. But when I listen to it, it's usually okay. But for that listener or viewer that has that inkling to change or pivot, what is your words of inspiration and courage for them?
Chris, I'm so glad that you pointed that piece out, because that is so common. That is a very common question I get, which indicates to me that so many of us feel that, right? Like I should be, I hear myself, I want to do this. I have a desire to do this. I keep hearing this voice to tell me to do this, but I'm here and this is what life looks like. And it feels too scary to do that, right? Or to go and walk in that direction. And I don't do this perfectly. So I really want to be clear. Like, I'm not trying to spout here as the perfect life expert by any stretch of the imagination. However, one really powerful piece of advice that I would give to anyone who feels that, who feels those rumblings, who feels that whisper, that how they do life now is not in alignment, that there's some shifts or clicks that need to happen, right? Is just to be brave enough to actually take mini action. Mini action, that's it. Like, just to do, the universe will respond to your actions. It will respond to your thoughts. So if you're like, man, I can't get this thought out of my head, I really want to do this, you don't have to completely blow up your life and start doing that tomorrow. I think that's a really sexy, like, media, beautiful Hollywood version of what it looks like. Like, I decided I was too overwhelmed with keeping up with the rat race. So I blew up my life and I moved to the country and I got 200 chickens, right? That's cool. That's awesome. But it doesn't have to look like that. It can look like little micro actions that just lean you in that direction. And each of those actions are going to take you one more step. And one more step towards it is going to give you a new vantage point of what you now need. I mentioned before how in the transition from Biz Women Rock to Women's Meditation Network, if anyone looks back, they're like, oh, you just decided this. And then the next day, boom, everything was rocking. It was a year and a half of a transition of managing all of these things, a year and a half of more of this and less of this. And let's say even more than a year and a half, a couple of years of the finances figuring themselves out, because that's a real part of this whole thing. So what I would say to anyone is just to be very honest with yourself about what's coming up. What fear is it that's actually there? What are you actually afraid of? And my guess is the fear is it's a couple of things. It's either fear of what other people are going to think or fear of money not working out. Those are usually the two most common fears, right? Oh my God, I'm going to quit this job and go here, but then I'm not going to have a paycheck. And my response to that is always, and my personal experience can validate this, go down the rabbit hole of the worst case scenario. What's the worst thing that could happen? Okay, I don't have the money to pay these bills. Okay, then what? Okay, then what? Okay, then what? Then what? And if you actually go down that rabbit hole, what you find at the end is that you have people who love you, who would happily take you and your family in and feed you. You have some community around you. You have others around you who would hold you in your worst moment. You absolutely have that. You won't go hungry. You won't go homeless. Or if you do, you'll be in a car. Homeless doesn't mean that you're completely done. So I say that because I think once you realize that, and I do this quite a bit, once I realize that, I'm like, I'm going to be fine. Like, that fight or flight response it doesn't have a candle. It doesn't hold a candle. It's like, I'll be okay. It's never going to go there, right? It's never going to be the worst case scenario, but it's very unlikely for that to happen. But if it did, I'd be okay. I'd be okay. And I would figure it out. So that helps me have the courage to do those micro steps and sometimes to make those big leaps. And the more you take those micro steps towards that, the more you work that muscle of bravery, the more you work that muscle of my intuition said this, and I'm going to do it. And the stronger that muscle becomes. So a year down the road, 5 years down the road, 20 years down the road, you're like, I don't know how to do this. Doesn't make it less scary. It doesn't make it less hard, but you know it, which is why I could have, how old was I? I was 40 years old, which is why at 40 years old, having a successful business with my intuition telling me, nope, you're done, which is why I could make that move, because I have already had decades of that muscle being flexed of, I hear you, I'm going to take action. I don't know what the hell's on the other side of this, but it's scary, but I trust you. And that's why I can do that. So that's my advice, is just to really get clear on what fear is actually there. Go down the rabbit hole, And then be brave to take those micro steps.
Yeah. Yeah. If you survived 2008 and survived COVID and then these latest, I was just thinking to myself, if you survive those two and then whatever is next is, you're just asking yourself what's next. And if people wanted to check out your podcast, connect with you, I know you've got premium, you've got sponsored content, you got a store as well. How can they check you out?
Yeah. So whatever podcast player you're listening to this on, just go in there and search for Women's Meditation Network or Meditation for Women. We come up a lot there, and just go choose the podcast that most resonates with you, or a few of them, and start pressing play. You can also go to womensmeditationnetwork.com and find us on socials, Women's Meditation Network.
Excellent. I really enjoyed this conversation and a very authentic, and I love your passion and your energy. And I think it showed to the viewers and listeners. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks so much, Chris.